Hey, hello
Hello.
everybody.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Infinite Awesome Cape and Cowl Book Club Show. Nice work. I'm Cody, aka the Mutant Menace. This is Kevin,
AKA Kevbot.
and together we are, well, you already know because I already said it. Welcome, everybody. This is our little show where we like to talk about some comics that we love and have loved and would like you to love as well. A lot of these are ready for your reading pleasure in nice collected editions, which is what we're going to be highlighting today. So I hope everyone has had an awesome week so far, but it's about to get better because hopefully we're going to show you some stuff you didn't know about or have been excited about. And yeah, it's going to be cool.
Yeah.
Hopefully we get some people in the chat. We would love to say hi. Let us know how our audio and video sounds and looks, of course, and feel free to jump in with any comments that you have as we go.
We did notice that yesterday Facebook comments weren't really coming through in the chat. So if you're on Facebook and you're watching us and you're saying stuff and we're not responding, it's not that we don't love you. We just
Yeah,
might not be able to see your comments.
exactly. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. So Facebook people, there was trouble. YouTube seems to be the smoothest experience, so that's what we would recommend. So yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, Cody's going to start us out with our first book of the evening. And we're going to focus on the books this time. I know last week we did some new stuff, but we spent a whole half hour plus yesterday going over the new stuff. So if you want to check out what's new this week, please go through our YouTube episodes and you will find our pick of the week episode from yesterday.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Thank you for the input, Julio. Thank you for letting us know how the audio sounds on Facebook. Jacob is here. Hello, Jacob.
Hi, Jacob.
Hello, Michelle.
Nice. Oh, cool. And that's a Facebook comment from Michelle. So it looks like it's working tonight.
Yeah, that was Facebook, so that's good.
Perfect.
All right. So let's dive in with some comics, shall we?
Yes, sir.
The first book I'm going to talk about tonight is a Marvel comic. This is Savage Avengers. This is written by Jerry Duggan, and this volume has art by Mike Deodato Jr. This is a series that has been around for like a year, a little over a year, and I didn't read it. I didn't jump on it with the first issue. I didn't jump on it with any of the issues except for I jumped on it with the annual because Damon Hellstrom was in it, and he's a Marvel character I love when he pops up, so I had to pick that up. And I actually really liked the annual. It was really fun, and I decided, you know what? To hell with it. Let's go back and read all of Savage Avengers. I avoided it for the longest time because to me, this looks like hyper masculine, like testosterone BS. Like literally, that's what I said when I saw it. Like this team up looks so forced. And so I was just like, I can't with the machismo of it all. So I avoided it for a long time. And when I picked it up and finally read it, which was somewhat recently, I was happy to see that I was completely right. It is completely testosterone, completely like machismo everywhere. But the point that I want to make that I didn't expect of it was how fun it is. It's a comic that is not scared to just go there, and it goes there right off the bat. It's overly gory. It's overly brutal for a Marvel comic. Like Jerry Duggan does not hold back in this. And while I still think that a lot of the casting ended up being kind of forced, it was still just fun to see them interacting. Like, I'll give you the gist of this volume here. This story is essentially the sorcerer Kulan Gath is trying to summon some big hell beast to take over the world, whatever, like, you know, mustache twisty kind of thing. And to do it, he baits each and every one of these characters. I'll show you a bigger picture so you can see who stars in this book. He baits all of these guys to come together and come to him because they're all like lethal Marvel characters who have a lot of blood on their hands. And he wants like the souls of like some of the most brutal men and women in the world. So he gathers these people with various things. He holds like an old friend of Logan hostage to get him. And it's kind of fun to see how he like masterminded everything. But when he gets them together, of course, they all fight back. Punisher is there for like no reason. Like he doesn't do anything. He just screams about his family because like they like dug up his family's bones, like, which I feel like is a thing that's already happened. But they did it and like Punisher's just gonna come for you. And like literally he just has a bunch of guns and screams, "Where's my family?" And like that's all he does. So like it's a little bit ridiculous, but it's like so much fun. By the end of this, our team is formed, but it doesn't really get to me to be like really amusing until the second volume. I liked the second volume a lot more. So far, there's just 2 volumes out. But yeah, I wanted to say, Gregory Stone, cool to see Conan involved. I did want to mention, yeah, thanks for pointing that out. Conan is part of this team, and this is like right after he joins the main 616 Marvel universe. And to find out how, you're going to want to read Avengers No Road Home, which is kind of the story of how he got here. But so yeah, Conan is here. Just adding to like the ridiculousness of all of it. This volume gets way more fun because we get a team up between Conan the Barbarian, Doctor Doom, and Doctor Strange, and they have to like infiltrate the fortress of Kulan Gath. And like that's a hilarious good time to me. Like Doctor Doom, any book he's in, he kind of like elevates it to like this whole new level. And you get Doctor Doom interacting with Conan, and they have like a dinner together, and it's just so amusing. So this is where it really got fun for me. The art jumps from Mike Deodato to Patch Searcher in this book. Deodato's darker, gritty art style lent itself a little bit more, I think, to this series than Patch Zurcher's does. Zurcher's a little bit, I don't know, Zurcher's fine, but his work is a little more, it doesn't quite fit the tone that I wanted. I wish there was another artist on the main line, but you do get Kim Jacinto doing a great issue between Conan and Punisher, where they're like trying to get out of the Savage Land, and they've just decided to walk. They're not going to take any, like, nothing. They're like, we're going to be tested by, what's his god, Crom? Yeah, so he's just like, we're going to just like test our will and our might and walk out of the Savage Land together. And Kim Jacinto illustrates it, and I really wanted to highlight their art because it's fabulous. Kudos to the colorist too. I'm not sure who colored this issue, but I'm a huge fan of Jacinto's style. This is Conan literally picking up Punisher's gun. And like, what's funny about it though is that Conan just like hates guns. Like he tries it, he's like, what's this curious weapon? And he's like, this is gross. There's no might in this, there's no honor, and kind of chucks it away. So anyway, it's a lot of fun. I don't go into it expecting like, a bunch of cerebral shit, because you're not going to get it. But what you will have is a roller coaster of a comic that is not ashamed to just be over the top and go there. So if you like those big action flicks, this is any big action blockbuster in Marvel Comics form, and it's just a good time.
Was that big bad villain? Was that from the Conan stories, or is he an existing Marvel villain?
So it's interesting because my introduction to Kulan Gath was from Uncanny X-Men. I forgot the exact issue, but he was in an X-Men issue where the X-Men couldn't beat him. He like trapped New York City in this like bubble, so where like everyone devolved. So it was all like medieval times, and they were all kind of in the thrall of the sorcerer who like feeds off of life energy. And it took like the Avengers combined with the X-Men to even beat him. And even then they couldn't kill him. They just like banished him. Because Kulan Gath's deal is like he does not die. Like you cannot kill this guy. So everyone's scared of him, even Doctor Strange, because as it turns out, he's like a serial killer of Sorcerer Supremes. Like he's killed several. So he's like a really big deal. And there's actually, there's an awesome reveal of how he's able to keep living and how he got powerful. And it's like so sick and so twisted. I won't ruin it, but it was like really, really cool. But basically like the fight scenes with him are like, it reminded me of Child's Play, like the ending scenes of any Chucky movie. You know how Chucky just won't die? Like, literally you can burn him, chop him up, and he'll just be like a skeleton of an adult. That's Kulan Gath. Like he does not go away, and it's very fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's not a strange plot device to be going after Conan's blood, because like in the last stuff I think Jason Aaron was doing, that was the entire 12 issues, was these like red witches trying to get his blood after decades of him murdering people, being a barbarian, and his blood is the only blood that contained the death magic that they needed. It's like it happens all the time with Conan. People just want his fucking murder blood. Cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I definitely want to read it. I read the first couple issues of Savage Avengers. I thought it was cool as hell, just because it was Conan in the Savage Land right from the get-go. It was like the perfect fit. I mean, where else are you going to stick Conan? You're going to throw him into New York or some suburban metropolis area? Like, fuck no, you're going to put him in the Savage Land with Isn't Brother Voodoo one of the characters too?
Brother Voodoo is here, so I was thrilled about that. I mean, like,
I
yeah, there's
love Brother
characters
Voodoo.
used. Yeah, like the lineup was just so funny. Like I had to check it out. Like nobody
Yeah.
uses Brother Voodoo anymore. But I like that you mentioned Conan's Journey, because what I kind of like about this book is at the very end, you actually get a map of his journey,
Oh, cool.
and this is like from his trip into the 616 reality, and then he
Yeah,
bounces between like a bunch of places in like South America, and like at one
that's
point he
cool.
gets kidnapped by Doctor Doom. Like he's focusing on something, and that being mostly like drinking a lot and like being with a
Of
lot of
course.
women, but like he
Of
like
course.
runs out of this bar that he just wrecked and like shatters through this force field, and Doctor Doom has kidnapped him. It's just like so funny because he's just like, I don't know, Conan's just like the definition of a lovable oaf. Like
Yeah.
he's like a big baby, and it's really really funny because he's like a really strong, really dangerous baby. So like his naivety in these situations is so funny, and that's part of what made these books
Yeah.
actually interesting to me, and made took it out of the bubble that I kind of put it in my
Right.
head, and kind of like exceeded my expectations.
He's basically Thor without the royalty part, Like
Yeah, right.
he's always like dangerous and way overpowered, but then he's like, "You're a good man, Tony Stark," or whatever. It's
I know, and that's
I
the
love
thing.
it.
Like, I've never been a Conan fan, but this book made me like him because he's like kind of squishy. Like he really likes to have friends, and
Yeah.
like I'm such a stan of friendship and like camaraderie, and like he
Yeah.
literally just like gets close to Punisher, and he's like, "You're a good guy," and oh my
Yeah.
god, yeah, him and Wolverine, like Wolverine. Conan says like, "I'm Conan from like wherever the hell he's from. Where is he
Yeah.
from? It's the name of his
Uh, I don't know, but
I
I
don't
know
know
what you're
either,
talking
but he's like,
about.
I'm Conan of something, and Logan goes, I'm Logan of Pabst, like makes a joke, like,
Oh, right. I love
and
that
it's
scene.
so funny because Conan takes him dead seriously because Conan doesn't know what Pabst Blue Ribbon is. So like from then on, he's just like, get up, Logan, do it for
For
Pabst.
power.
He's just like, he's like, farewell, good Logan. May you have many victories in the name of Pabst. And it's just like this running gag, and oh my god, it was hysterical. Um,
So good.
my friend Quinn is here. I want to say hi, Quinn. Hello. Um, but yeah, Micro says murder, blood sounds like a Kevin book. Yeah, Kevin, this is a Marvel book you'd really like.
I've got a brilliant segue from the Murder Blood comment. My first book of the week is Murder Falcon.
Yeah.
I've been preaching about this book since it came out, so there's likely a lot of you that already know or have read some or all of this. But it is a story about the world ending as all these giant portals rip open in the sky and monsters start to pour through. An aging metalhead, or like kind of a burnout metalhead, is discovers that his guitar has the ability to summon the Murder Falcon from the heavens to battle these monsters. And the tastier his licks, the more complete his sound, the stronger the Murder Falcon is, and the more monster bodies he can explode. It's the story starts off like that. You don't really know why he's not currently in a band, but there's this soft, gooey center to the story that kind of plays with that part of it. I'm not going to tell you anything because that to me was the redeeming point of the book. The art is amazing, the story is amazing, but the soft center is really what got me going. Because this book, I mean, it just looks like monster murder all the way through. But I cried. I cried real hard at certain parts of this book. So if you're not already familiar with Daniel Warren Johnson, oh wait, before I get to the art, so the story goes after him and Murph, the Murder Falcon, for short. After they start battling monsters, he gets the band back together, and each of his bandmates gets a different instrument that summons a different mythical creature. So the drummer's mystical drum set summons a woolly mammoth, I believe. They even meet a bunch of metalheads from around the world that have traveled to join forces with him. I think there's a guy who's like a symphony conductor in Japan. I mean, it's so freaking cool. Okay, now I'm going to show you some art, and you're going to freak out. Of course, I got to pick a page that doesn't spoil anything for you. Here's the introduction of your boy Murph. And what really, really endeared me very quickly to these characters, well, aside from the amazing art, is the fact that Murph, the entire time he's fighting monsters, in my head I was just hearing Duke Nukem one-liners. Like you destroy a monster, you could totally hear Duke Nukem's voice saying "Hail to the King, baby," or Ash from uh, what is it? Army of Darkness. So it's amazing. It's one and done. It's a full volume that comprised 8 issues, so it's nice and meaty. And then you get a little bonus stuff in the back. You get a let's see here. Oh, check this out. This is the enemy stronghold. I mean, just everything is rendered in such amazing detail. It's so good. Oh, so I was gonna say is in the end of the book, you actually get all of the covers, which they were a huge selling point for me initially because each of the B covers for the issues were various homages to heavy metal albums. Murder Falcon, Murder Falcon. Got a little Judas Priest, got a little Iron Maiden. And there's 8 of those. So I won't spoil any more of them. You'll have to get the book to see them yourself. But excellent book full of murder that will make you cry a little. Please read it.
Nice.
Did you read that at all, Cody?
I haven't read it, but I've been meaning to. For that art is just awesome. Micro says Murder Falcon is on the list. You recommended it to him the first time you met.
Sounds about right. All right, so that was my number 1. All right, Cody, what else do you got for us?
All right, yes, I do have more. I wanted to point out another thing too. Where'd it go? Yes, Mike Rowe. It is. This is one of my favorite shirts. I'll show you. It's X Factor Investigations, baby. Peter David. There we go. Thank you for noticing. I'm obsessed with this comic run, so we had to talk about that. Okay, so my next book. Let's see. What should I do next? All right. So this is a book I have raved about several times in the store. This is called Invisible Kingdom. This is a book by G. Willow Wilson and the amazing Christian Ward. G. Willow Wilson right now writing The Dreaming, Waking Hours under the Sandman Universe imprint over at DC. And Christian Ward right now, is he on a comic right now? I think he's doing he's been doing covers. I don't know if he's on a book right now.
He's been doing covers. I don't know if he's actually done internals on anything other than Invisible Kingdom in a while. I can't think of it.
Yeah. Well, regardless, this book is incredible. This is one of those creative teams that is just like you didn't know you needed, and then you read it, and the synergy they have is just beautiful. This book essentially is it's kind of a space opera. It's one of those cosmic starfaring adventures. It's essentially about a mega corporation, think Amazon, kind of like the big kid on campus. It's where everybody gets everything they need, in a society where all the, it's a very like capitalist society. Everything they need could possibly want is supplied to them by this mega corporation. And on the other side, you have this religion that has sworn off of, possessions and capitalist greed and all the things that come with a mega corporation. This book is essentially about 2 women who independently of each other discover that these 2 organizations are completely in cahoots. Their church of the religion is getting funding from this megacorp, and there's a lot happening behind the shadows. And one of them finds out she's a courier for the mega corporation, and she finds out through a series of events on a shipment she's doing. And then the other is a nun for the religion who finds out because she's in charge of their bookkeeping and records. And of course, she stumbles into some weird numbers. And they find out at the same time. And this book is about how they come together and how they're going to handle it. They immediately become fugitives, wanted by everyone. It's very Saga in that way because you have a ragtag team of, spacefaring adventurers kind of out on the run from where they both came from. They can't trust anyone. They meet a bunch of crazy characters along the way, like some space pirates, which are one of my favorite sci-fi tropes. So it's just packed full of that. And I do want to highlight some of the Christian Ward art, because if you're unfamiliar with Christian Ward, he's very much one of my favorites. He's known for his kind of big, swirling, very painterly illustrations. Trying to get a good page.
And you will definitely see more Christian Ward on this show, because I love Christian Ward. One of my top 5. I mean, there's a couple books that we don't have in right now that we just have to get in so I can tell you about them so you could read them. But he's amazing.
Yeah. I'm going to show you a little bit of a sample. Yeah. Just a quick look at some of his stuff.
Oh, so good.
It's fabulous. It's very, it has a very dreamlike quality to it. It's all very ethereal, and that's like a staple in his work. But yeah, this is a fantastic book. Like I said, very saga. So if you're looking for something to kind of like fill that void for you in the meantime, this is something I recommend to fans of saga for that reason. You know, a bunch of outcasts in space on the run from the people they used to trust, you know, their people that they come from. So it's a great time.
And like Cody was saying too, it is chock full of extremely strong female characters. G. Willow Wilson just knocked it out of the park. It's so well structured. The crew is great.
Yeah, it really is. It's one of those books where if you're like me and you like that character-centric storytelling, all of these people, you meet them all at once. It might seem a little overwhelming, but you start learning little bits and pieces, and they all have their own very distinct personalities. And yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I love it. I highly recommend it too. There you go. 2 recommendations.
Boom.
Speaking of boom, nice. I like all these segues.
Oh, wow. No way.
All right. I'm going to talk about one that Cody told me he's been eyeballing for a while, but has never gotten a chance to check out.
Micro, really quick. I'm sorry. I think Invisible Kingdom, I don't know if it's over, if it's on hiatus.
It's on hiatus. It's coming back.
Yeah. So there are 2 paperbacks out, and that's everything out so far. So now is the perfect time to catch up. And so when it's back out in singles, everyone can jump on for the ride.
And if I recall correctly, when the singles were coming out, the book came out like as soon as the arc ended. So if you feel like you want to trade, wait for the next stuff too. Those 2 will tide you over until then, I'm sure. I don't know exactly when it's starting back up, but that's something I could search easily for you.
Yeah, and I wanted to point out it's on Berger Books under Dark Horse, which is the legendary Karen Berger's imprint. Who, you know, if you're a '90s Vertigo fan, Karen Berger, in Karen we trust.
What other Berger stuff? There's She Could Fly, Incognito is Berger, isn't it?
Yeah, Incognito was. Yeah. There's a ton of stuff. Yeah, She Could Fly was one of them. Hungry Ghosts was the Anthony Bourdain horror anthology book, was a Berger book. And some new ones that I always forget are Berger books, actually. There's some kind of recent ones that are.
All right, so this one that I led up to and then just stopped talking about a second ago is
sorry,
called Coda.
My bad.
No, it's okay. No, I got distracted. Coda. This story takes place in a post-apocalyptic fantasy world. It's not something you get all that often. It is about a very antisocial bard who roams the countryside and on his mutated unicorn, also known as a pentacorn because of the 5 horns that it has. And in this world, magic was real abundant. And then magic was not abundant. Magic was very scarce. And so the last remaining little bits of magic are sort of scattered all over this world, and they call it Ichor. And Ichor is actually the reason that his unicorn's got 5 horns. He feeds some of the magic to his unicorn when he needs it to be a little more capable. And he's on a mission to find as much magic as he can in order to save the soul of his wife. And you don't really know much about his wife at the beginning. Very quickly revealed she's a warrior priestess, and they're not currently on speaking terms. So this is not just a story about a wrecked world and a man trying to get by. He's also trying to save the love of his life. I am going to show you some art from this because it was the art that initially drew me in. It has a very sort of European vibe to the art, which makes sense because the artist's name is Matthias Bergara. I don't know other stuff that he's done, but look at the fine line art rendering. First line of the book, there are rats in my bowel. Let me give you a cool picture of the Pentacorn. So, anyways, this guy, as he's doing his bard thing, wandering around trying to find magic, he's also working with the different factions that are attempting to control this world and all of the magic that remains, and he gets sucked into the power struggle. So it's a little political, a little magic, got a lot of fantasy. Look at this freaking Pentacorn. So everyone that sees this dude's horse knows what it is and is deathly afraid of it for good reason. Look at that thing. There's fantastic creatures that abound in this. There's like a mermaid queen, there's giants and trolls and goblins and lots of desert. And it's completed in 3 volumes. So if it's a a medium length fantasy story that you're into, and you like a little bit of apocalypse thrown in there, I would highly recommend Coda. It was one of my favorites when it came out. It's by the amazing Cy Spurrier. Again, art by Matthias Bergara. And I don't know. I mean, this thing was a nominee for 2019 Best Pencil Anchor Eisner, for good reason. It's very, very, very well done. I don't want to show you guys anything of the other 2 books because you're gonna have to read it because it's that cool. I will show you the covers. Cover for book 2, pretty radical. That's his wife right there. And this is the cover for 3. Look at that Pentacorn. Badass. So that was my boom segue. I hope you guys want to check out Coda because I sure know that Cody does.
Nice. Yeah, it's a beautiful looking book. I haven't read it yet, but Simon Spurrier is one of those writers that could definitely get me to jump onto something new. He has a knack for the weird and the strange, and I like that.
Yeah, especially when he's teamed up with an artist that's a little quirky and not kind of off the beaten path. He really shines the best when he's got kooky artists with him. I agree.
Yeah, totally.
All right,
cool. We'll move on to the next book. Jumping back into Marvel land, something I read shockingly somehow for the first time only recently, is X-Men, Worst X-Men Ever. This is by Max Bemis, the vocalist of Say Anything and writer of various comic books. Actually, Heavy is one that Kevin talked about on a previous show. He's writing Heavy right now. He's done a Moon Knight run for Marvel as well. And art is by Michael Walsh, who I really have to point out the colorist, Ruth Redmond, because together they did some beautiful stuff on this book when it comes to art. Yeah. It's a good looking book. I almost want to say better looking than it had any right to be. It's a great book, but it's such a funny, silly story that the art lends itself so much to how memorable this experience was. Essentially, this is a book about a young mutant, and the jury's kind of out. When it came out, and since it came out, it's been understood pretty much that it's not in main Marvel continuity. This is not really a big part of the X-Men continuity, because you can read it independent of anything. You can jump into this with no understanding of anything. So it stars this young mutant. His name is Bailey. I forget his last name, but his name is Bailey. And he has a pretty humdrum life. He can't get any girls. He's kind of a nerd. He likes to play video games, and he has a sassy gay best friend who kind of just tries to help, but kind of just puts him down more. And essentially he's just this sucks. I want my life to be interesting. I want to be somebody that stands out. I just want to make it. And eventually he finds out that he's a mutant because his parents sit him down, and he thinks am I adopted? What is this talk going to be? And they're like, no, we're both mutants. So we think there's a good chance you are. He is. So he gets very, very excited, and he has to find out what his power is. So he's like, I'm going to join the X-Men. This is going to be incredible. I'm going to be a superhero. He goes and he does a bunch of testing with Beast and everything. And he finds out that his ability is to explode once and then die. That's it. That's all he could do. So he's like, great, if I use my power, I'll cease to exist. And I finally got the one thing I want, and it's really, really lame. And this is about the trials and tribulations of being a mutant that can't really be a mutant with anybody. He teams up with some new characters that Max Bemis creates, like Rags and Riches. They're these twins. One of them can turn things into gold, and Rags can make anything fall apart. And one of his friends too, he makes friends with a young woman who is pretty much like, she has like godlike capabilities. She's like Omega. Beast calls her something above Omega, and she's like, "What's that?" And he's like, "I don't know. I just made it up." But she can basically like bring anything into existence and remove anything from existence. It's crazy. And this character is basically Max Bemis's way of playing with a continuity that won't matter. Like, he uses her to kind of do whatever he wants, because this was a story, like I said, that's not in mainline continuity. But I'm going to give you a look at the art as well as point out one of my favorite parts. Essentially, Bailey is auditioning to be in several different X-Men teams. He auditions to be an X-Force, and he's like terrified because Cable and Shatterstar are like tearing people apart. There's blood everywhere. There's a guy talking to Bailey that says, "I'll literally pay you to get me out of here right now." Cable is screaming something like, "Do it, stab him, take a chunk out of his thigh." Like, it's like hilarious. And little Bailey's just terrified. He's like, "Ah!" And like, there's also, he tries to join X Factor, and he manages to annoy all of them. Even Multiple Man has just like had enough of him. He tries to join the New Mutants, and like the New Mutants are already too much of a family, so like he doesn't fit in with them, because they're like, "Remember that time I blew a Sentinel's head up?" And he's like, "Haha, remember that time your parents were possessed?" Like bullshit like that. That's not really what he says, but you know. And Bailey's just like, "Yeah, life sure is crazy, huh?" Can't relate. He even tries to like have lunch with Alpha Flight, and they have this great conversation about whether they're like relevant to the X universe or not. And they're like, "Yeah, we're adjacent. We're X adjacent." And he's like, "All right, got it." It's just such a fun book. The art is like stunning. It's like I said, it's better looking than it had any right to be.
I also feel like if you're a fan of meme faces, that this book will make you laugh in hysterics, because the facial expressions, just looking at panels Cody's posted, have me laughing out loud. It looks hilarious.
Oh yeah, it's great. Let me see.
Yeah.
There's a good spread of Wolverine. Everybody loves Wolverine. Let me see. Yeah. It's such a party of a book. Like, when it comes to X-Men, it's like such a great story that you don't have to know anything about anything, and you can just have a great time. And yeah, a party is the best way I can explain this book. So definitely check it out if you need some laughs, some levity from all the crazy stuff going on in our real lives. This is like pure X-Men escapist 101 right here.
Yeah, it's like a Marvel aperitif.
Yeah,
I like it. Very cool, very cool. And now I want to reread that. It's been a long time since I read that.
Oh, it's so much fun. I also want to point out, Ruby, still a better superhero than Gambit. You get it. Great.
Thanks, Ruby. All right, well, I got a real fun one. Something that's been climbing the spec boards on Key Collector, because there, I believe, is an impending movie or show coming. This is amazing trilogy that came out quite a while ago by Justin Jordan with art by Trad Moore. It's called The Strange Talents of Luther Strode. Under the surface, this comic is a love letter to every single adventure action movie that I loved when I was a kid. Last Starfighter. There's a number of other ones that there's little feelings of, but essentially the story is about this wimpy blonde kid from high school who sends away for a muscle mag in the back of his comic book. We've all seen those ads, for invisible spec or x-ray specs, things like that. So he sends away for this muscle mag, which is like two big bodybuilders with twirly mustaches and like triangle weights, like totally hilariously old school weightlifting guide or whatever. Turns out the book is from a murder cult that is sent out as a training tool to determine who has a gift for murder. Turns out Luther's really, really good at this, but he's also a really good kid. So he decides to take these newfound powers and fight the system. The system being this evil order, essentially a murder cult that's run by Cain of Cain and Abel. I'm just going to show you some art because the story itself sounds cool just describing it, but when you get eyeballs on Tradmore's art, it is the most visceral, like action-oriented art. The movement lines on it are crazy. So the book starts out with this guy sort of self-narrating. I am Luther Strode. It hurts catching bullets in his muscles. Something that would normally kill a normal human. And then this is the carnage that he's wrought. So this just kind of reminded me of like playing with my toys when I was a kid. You remember like when your turtle would jump off the wall and kick another dude in the face and then grab something and smash their head with it? You were always being like super creative and having characters like no surface was off limits. They could be jumping off the ceiling or the walls. It's basically like that. Like he essentially, where is it? I'm so terrible at this.
It's disorienting. not what you're doing, but it's
so look, he rips this dude's arms off, shoves one down a guy's throat so hard the fingers poke out the neck, uses the other hand to chop a dude's head in half, and then kicks a guy in the balls so hard that he just explodes from the inside out. So it's super violent. It's like hyper violent. But they don't dwell on it. I mean, those scenes are about as brutal as it gets, which is pretty brutal. And then the story kind of progresses as this murder cult doesn't want to let such a gifted recruit. They don't want to give him freedom. They want to let him choose not to be part of the gang. So they send all these crazy supervillains, and they actually tie a bunch of stuff into history, kind of like how they did the whole Cain and Abel thing. A couple of the killers that are allies of this murder cult are famous killers from history. I don't know, just read it. It's so good. First book is him like figuring out that he's got this talent. Second book is him like fighting the system with his girl, like going up against the world. Third book is him taking it to the cult, and it is so satisfying by the end. I can't think of 3 better books that you should spend your time on. Look at these. And look at these covers. If this doesn't indicate kind of the progression of your boy Luther. So that's the first one, Strange Talent of Luther Strode. This is the second one, where he has sort of found peace and become a Zen warrior against this murder cult. Ow, hit myself in the face. And then the third one. Take a wild guess what happens in this one. So Tradmore's gone on to do stuff like Silver Surfer Black, New World, I think it was called, and a bunch of other stuff. He's amazing. Don't sleep on this one. And like I said, there's going to be a movie or show treatment soon. I think they're going to do production soon. So these single issues are climbing in value a lot too. So yeah, that's one of my faves. I always talk about it. That's why there's a pile of 30 of them on the front table. So
yeah, you can't go wrong with Tradmore's art. That stuff is just awesome. Super.
Yeah.
I barely even have a word for it. It's somewhere between like, I mean, the Silver Surfer stuff is psychedelic.
Yeah,
but
this is not psychedelic. This is way more like just blood and bone.
Yeah, but that's still like, I feel like the way he plays with perspective is still really notable in his work.
Oh yeah, the action scenes where they're fighting. I mean, I showed you guys a panel that was like little flashes of what he had been doing, but there's these multi-page, drawn-out, double-page spread battles. He even battles a guy in a mall where all of the people have been trapped and murdered, and they're strewn about all over the place. It's amazing. Mike Rowe, it's just the 3 current. It's just the 3 total. I don't think they're planning to do anything beyond it. Who knows if the show or movie takes off? Maybe they'll look at some other stuff. But there's plenty of source material in here for seasons worth of a show, or at least a few movies.
Yeah, and with the coming of a show or a movie or any multimedia situation, re-releases always happen, special editions always happen. Maybe there'll be a deluxe. We'll see. That'd be cool.
Yeah, there was a hardcover a while back. I think like a year or 2 ago. It sucks. It was a $50 hardcover, which is now not that. But they stopped printing it like last year. So I would guess though, like Cody said, once it comes back, that the demand might be there enough so that they could be convinced to make a hardcover. Otherwise, keep your eyes peeled. But the 3 paperbacks look real nice on the shelf together too. I personally am waiting for the hardcover to come back too because I really want one. I bought one for my brother, and now I'm debating whether asking him for it back or I can't do that. I can't do that. It's not nice.
That is awesome. All right. Cool. My next book is by a writer who I am a total shill for and miss no opportunity to plug every chance I get. That's right. It's another Dan Watters book. This time, I'm talking about Dan Watters' Limbo. This is a book he made alongside artist. What's his first name? I always forget. His last name is Wingard. I always forget his first name.
Oh yeah, it's the dude who did
Jason.
Yeah.
Right?
I think so.
It's Casper. You know what? I said Jason because isn't that Mastermind's name, Jason Wingard?
Yes. Yes.
Anyway, I very much amused
Cody.
myself. I'm sorry. Casper Wingard. Anyway,
He's
so,
the one who did Peter Cannon Thunderbolt or something like that, didn't he?
Oh, is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But it's great. And I think he also does. Yeah, so he also does all the design work as well as the colors in this book, which is really, really notable because the colors are what really smacks you in the face about this book. Essentially, what we have here, this is a sci-fi story. It's basically, think about it kind of like a crime noir mixed with shamanism and dark magic by way of analog 80s technology. It sounds like a lot, and that's because it is. But basically, what we get here is a story of a man who wakes up without his memories. He has a vague memory of being like a private eye, which is what he does. And he kind of builds his life around that. So he's working with this woman to solve cases. And one of these cases takes a supernatural turn when he's investigating this kind of crime lord kingpin of this town. He starts videotaping a deal he's making out behind a bar that he frequents. And he thinks he has the proof he needs that this guy is dabbling in some, dark criminal shit. When he gets home, he's reviewing the tape. He sees a figure there, a ghostly figure that was not there when he was looking at them in person. And he's watching on a VHS tape. It's important to note all the tech in this is all like 80s throwback. There's a bunch of stuff. There's cassettes and, VHS tapes. And basically he's reviewing his tape of the deal, and this ghost-like figure just like turns and looks straight at him at the camera. And thus begins this man's descent into a neon-drenched world of shaman mysticism. Essentially, let me show you some of the art. Oh, you're on mute.
I remember the solicits for that were so colorful and just eye-catching and popping.
Yeah, it's definitely stunning stuff. So this is kind of like neon-drenched neo-noir psychedelia, and the colors, like I said, just really hit you in the face when you open this book. It's one of those stories where, like many Dan Watters stories, it's hard to get too into it without revealing some of the heftier themes that are more fun to kind of dig out yourself. But essentially, it's this man's journey through to get his own memory back, but he's doing that through the cases that he's pursuing, and he ends up being chased by this crime lord's henchmen, which are they have various powers. Like one of them is a like ghostly marching parade, or like a marching band. And when they play music, it gets into your body and manifests itself as serpents who then wriggle and burst out of you. And that's just an example of one of the kind of henchmen that are after this guy in this book. You get his partner that he's working with. She is a witch who does her own kind of divination. But in her divination, it's voodoo magic. So she's communicating with the Loa, which are the voodoo spirits. But she does so not through a crystal ball and not through card readings and not through, divine or scrying and a black mirror, anything like that. She actually communicates with the Loa through making it mixtapes. She creates mixtapes for the Loa, plays them, and performs a dance. And it's great because at one point you see her shopping like at a record store, and she's just like, nah, this won't do. Like she has to very like fill the quota of whatever Loa she's trying to get into contact with. And she explains it in this book. She's like, a mixtape is not just a mixtape if you're doing it right. A mixtape tells a story, it has a pattern, it has a flow, and you kind of like you craft them very specifically when it's for somebody. And, you know, turns out big voodoo spirits are no different. You have to pick your tracks carefully and, you know, decide how you're going to do it. It's a wild book. It deals with all kinds of themes, from existentialism through just wild kind of afterlife journeys. You do take a journey through like the underworld at one point, and just Caspar Wingard's art does not disappoint. A really cool touch that this book does too. And kudos to Wingard because he does all the design work. But you see that it all kind of plays like a VHS tape, so you get all that static in between issues that kind of indicate like new chapters, and there's all kind of touches like that. But yeah, it's great. And if you like any kind of like occult mystery stories with a lot of paranormal themes, but with a really distinct sense of humor, I'd highly recommend this book to anybody who likes that kind of thing. It's great. It's truly a unique story. One of the more unique things I've read in a long time.
Which is also, I think, pretty similar to what you're saying about the other Dan Waters stuff that you talked about previously with the Brussels sprout bank robbers, right?
Right.
The sentient writes some Brussels real weird sprouts. Shit. Sounds fun.
Yeah, he's a voice in comics right now that I don't feel like enough people are talking about, because he really brings the weird. I mean, fans of Grant Morrison and those guys that dabble in the surreal and put hefty themes and ideas through sci-fi, action, superhero stories. Like, Dan Waters is very much doing that. So fans of the weird, hunt this guy down. I think you'll fall in love much like I did.
Agreed. Very, very nice. All right. Help me pick, Cody. Should I do horror, fantasy, or historical fiction?
Oh, spooky, obviously.
Spooky, obviously, guys. All right, so this is one of my, I don't know, maybe top 5 like horror titles of the last few years. It didn't really get a lot of coverage or exposure, I feel like, when it was coming out, but I do what I can to spread the word. This book is called Regression. It's by Cullen Bunn with art by Danny Luckert, who did an indie book called Tethered a while back that we had a book club about, I think. Regression is about this young man who is having really fucked up open-eyed hallucinations while he's awake. So he's at like a friend's picnic and he goes to eat his burger and he goes to eat his burger. Oh, where is it? And his neighbor's trying to talk to him, and he looks over at his neighbor. His neighbor's got a mouth and eyeballs full of maggots and centipedes and worms and stuff. So right off the bat, it gets off to a creepy note. So in order to deal with these open-eyed hallucinations, his girlfriend convinces him that he should visit a past life regression therapist and do some hypnotherapy. So he agrees. He goes to the hypnotist, and during his past life regression, he comes to understand that he is connected in some way to a serial killer from way back in the day, a very, very, very evil spirit, person, whatever. And when he exits the session, he unknowingly drags back something very evil with him. So this book gets into all sorts of crazy shit about reincarnation and the cost of evil and cults. I mean, obviously serial killers that can sort of traverse time in this way and come out during a past life regression. There's a lot more going on behind the scenes than you realize. So let me show you a couple cool pages. Danny Luckert's art is insane. Oh, here's a good page. This isn't too far in, so I don't feel like it's spoiling anything. But there's a picture of this young man on the left side. You can see normal dude. Got a lady friend that he's in love with. And on this other side, during his session, he comes to find out that he is connected to this dude who's licking blood off a dagger and looking psycho with a noose around his neck. From there, it just gets crazier. It is also, like my theme has been this evening, it's a 3-volume set. It's done. it's great. Has a very, very satisfying ending. Um, I don't know if many books horror wise have visually creeped me out as much as this book, at least off like right off the bat. But it's very, very easy read. I mean, it's great. It's not like dense or too weird. But there's lots of murdery stuff in it. So if you like murdery horror, check it out. Have you read any of this, Cody? Have you read Regression at all?
No, I haven't. I have meant to because I really like the art style. I really liked those visuals in there.
Oh my God, I want to show you another picture.
Here, let me make it maximize.
Look at that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That shit is so fucking creepy.
Yeah, that's kind of like.
I was gonna say I'm always looking for cool new horror, but horror it can't all hit you the same way. You get super bored with it. You're not like it's like the same horror you just read. So I really appreciate horror that does something a little different, takes me in a different direction, makes me feel feelings that I didn't think horror would make me feel. This was fun, very creepy, and highly recommended.
Yeah, I gotta check that one out for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
speaking
of horror doing something different, my next book is a very recent release that we at the store all really like. It's one of those that you don't really have to pitch it like at all. I find myself here at the store when we sell this book, I don't have to do any pitching because I just show them what it's called. And that book is called Dracula Motherfucker. This is an awesome book. It's by Alex de Campi with art by Erica Henderson. This is one of those books that takes the horror genre of specifically a Dracula story and does offer us something pretty new and pretty fresh. Yeah. This is a book that takes place in, I believe it's LA. It's in 1970s LA. And it stars a black crime scene photographer. And he's kind of like out of work, isn't he? In the beginning?
I think so, yeah.
So when he starts getting calls of these, pretty atypical bodies being found with, the signature telltale holes in the neck, of course, he jumps on the scene. And he's kind of our ride-along character into this world of shockingly gorgeous vampires and the seedy underbelly of LA and the thrall of Dracula and his ex-wives. This book is really cool because it gives us beautiful colors and design work and a very not typical Dracula depiction. In this book, Dracula is essentially an amorphous cloud-like creature with a gazillion eyes. That's a very fresh take on Dracula. Yeah, it's wild. There's some stuff. I would show you some panels near the end of Dracula, but it gives away a couple key events in it. But this whole thing is very notable to me for the color work and the panel arrangement and the layouts of the pages. It's really kind of like this almost pop art kind of day glow. It's like even the.
I was gonna say it's the Squirrel Girl artist is the one who did these renderings, right? That's Erica Henderson. Didn't she?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
but like even like that explosion, there's something just like whimsical about it almost.
Yeah.
But yeah, and this is one of those books where it's a pretty quick dang read, so it's not going to take up a lot of your time. But really what's going to take up your time is you won't be able to stop ogling these pages of just really gorgeous artwork that is just like so moody. Like moody is the best word I can say. Like I'll show you this scene, which I really like how they played with the lighting in this scene and just the way that's laid out.
And I think we initially got like 10 of these and they sold in the first 2 or 3 days. So, I mean, this book is doing very well. It was very well received. I don't think anybody who's read it has had anything except amazing stuff to say about it.
Oh yeah, we flew through our stock when we first got this. And like I said, it was barely word of mouth. It's like the title does the whole job for us. It's just a great title for a book. Here, I don't think this is much of a spoiler. I want to show off one more page because this really is just like, this really sells what you're in for here.
Oh,
it's just crazy stuff, man. Look at that Dracula face right there. That's
Yeah,
wild. So this was just like one of those books that I love having on my shelf at home. I had it on pre-order and took it home day one.
me
And
too.
I yeah, we both did, and I love to show it off to people, especially because I'm kind of Mike Rowe was in the store recently, and we were talking about vampire stories and how like I feel a little bit jaded by them because you can only do so much with vampires, and so much has been done. We've seen things like True Blood put vampires into the mainstream as part of society, but like persecuted bunch. We've seen so many ways of dealing with vampires, and this one it's amazing and puts its own spin on it without having to go through much legwork of reinventing the wheel. You kind of just jump right
Yeah.
in, and it's a ride that doesn't stop, and the visuals are incredible. And like I said, a nice quick read, so it's not going to take up a lot of your time, but it's a lovely collection piece. I love having this on my shelf.
Seems like you're a fan of that gorgeous artwork, Cody. First Invisible Kingdom and now Dracula, motherfucker.
There's something about a really stunning book that makes me want to keep it, because like I buy
Yeah,
so many books. I buy physical copies of like everything I read.
yeah.
There's no way I can keep it all. I already keep too much of it, but the ones that stay in my collection are the ones that I can just take off a shelf and just be like, whoa, like I can show that
Yeah,
to anybody, and like this just modern art to have on your shelf is just gorgeous.
agreed. Very, very agreed.
Yeah.
Um, all right. Well, I have one. I'm going to segue into another beautiful book that also I feel like didn't get a lot of love when it first came out. Crosswind. This is by the famous Gail Simone and Kat Staggs. I wasn't super sold when I first saw this because I was almost 100% convinced that they were just taking photos and doing stuff with them. It like almost didn't look real. Like, let me show you some of the art from this, and I'll tell you a little bit about the plot. So this story is essentially Freaky Friday meets Goodfellas. A hardened, vicious hitman for the mob and a smart but downtrodden Seattle housewife through, I forget the exact circumstances, and I think that's actually the point, is that you don't really know initially. They swap places, not swap places, swap bodies. So this all of a sudden, this lady who gets bullied by the teenage neighbor, and her husband talks down to her, and her kids are kind of shitty. Um, is all of a sudden the body is possessed by this hardened hitman, and vice versa. So this hardened hitman is now a housewife, and this comes through in amazing ways. Oh yeah, I was going to show you some art. Just like look at some of this stuff. Um, I want to find a good one. So it comes through in amazing ways. Like the hitman, who is now the body is now possessed by the housewife. It happens right as a crime has been committed, and they're all worrying about getting caught or what they're going to do. And the housewife in this hitman's body is like, "You guys take off. I'll take care of the cleaning. I got this." And just like spotlessly cleans the crime scene to the point where everyone else is like, "Damn, where'd you learn how to do that? Like you totally got all the stains out and cleaned everything." She's like, "Oh, it's just my skills." And then, of course, on the other end, the housewife who's getting bullied by the neighbor kid. You can imagine a mob hitman doesn't go so well when this teenager starts mouthing off. So it's full of all sorts of fun little instances like that. Still trying to find the best page to show you guys. Oh, here's a good one. Like, just look at the art. Like, I was like, there's no way that they're actually doing this art. And then I looked up a bunch of other Cat Stag stuff, and sure enough, that's the way he does art. It's amazing. Kind of reminded me of like Max Payne. I don't know if you guys remember that video game from back when I was a child.
Yeah, they made like, did they make a movie out of Max Payne at one point?
Yeah, it was not good.
But I probably should see it. I love shitty adaptations.
Oh, here you go. Here's a good example of the what's going on. So you see the housewife kind of come to in this hitman's body with a dead dude in the bathtub, and the wife's getting hassled by a dude, and she just yanks that hand out of his. There's some very, very satisfying resolutions to both of those things, and it just gets better. So they do eventually figure out kind of what is causing the switch between them, and it does end without a resolution because I believe there's more to come. This was initially supposed to be done in seasons, I believe. I am pretty sure it got optioned. Don't quote me on that, but I think it might have been optioned because it's a great idea. I mean, it's stuff that's already kind of been done, just a new twist. I would highly recommend checking it out. It's very satisfying, even though it doesn't have an end yet. And I'm real excited to read more when it does start back up. I will definitely be reading volume 2.
Nice. And this is the one, Micro, we don't talk about the movie. I will always talk about the movie. But yeah, so this is the one, by the way, that you recommended to me from when I started picking up Bad Mother, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think you'd like it a lot. I think you'd giggle at the parts that I was talking about. Just seeing like this housewife who you get to see kind of timid and not really standing up for herself, and then they learn things in each other's bodies. So she gets a little bit of the cowardly lion heart, and he gets a little bit of some tempering of his violent ways. It's really cool. I would check it out.
I love that. I really like the concept. It's a great concept.
Yeah. I know we're getting close to. We're actually at an hour. Do you have anything else that you wanted to talk about briefly before we wrap up?
I don't think so. I actually got through my books this week, so that's perfect.
These are what I'm going to bring next week.
Oh, spoiler alert, screenshot that, everybody. Everybody can pause and screenshot this later and leak it so nobody watches. Thanks, guys.
Oh, and Mike Rowe, I saw your comment that saying thanks for covering the closed series. I love doing that on stuff like this, man. I want people to be able to fall into a new title completely. So all the better if there's 6 or 7 volumes, and that's all. I will continue to bring you guys complete series when I can, at least books that have a good resolution. I value now. I will never read a book or bring up a book that just drops off a cliff and is not satisfying at the end.
Yeah, I saw that comment too. I wanted to highlight that. It's so important to do, because one of the things that keeps people from getting into comics, I think, is because they can be so daunting. I mean, superhero books are the big draw to a lot of people, but they're so steeped in continuity that it can be so intimidating. And so books like these one-offs, books like we've talked about today, like Dracula Motherfucker, and even books like X-Men Worst X-Men Ever, where you get familiar characters and familiar vibes, but you can just pick it up and go. Those books are incredibly important, and I think we all here make a point to read those so that we can share them with you.
Yeah. And Ruby, I see your comment there. That's good. I can't promise that you will like everything that I like, but I will promise to never give you a book that I didn't like the ending or that I felt like was too much of a cliffhanger.
Yeah, as long as you didn't say money back guarantee, we're not going to go down that road.
Not nowadays.
Nope. All right, cool. Well, yeah, we are at an hour. Thanks, everybody, for showing up. Thank you so much for contributing to the chat. It really helps enrich the experience for all of us. We love to hear from you guys, so please keep that up. As usual, this video will be on YouTube. If you like it, give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe, click the bell for notifications so you know every time we go live. If you didn't like the video, just kindly walk away. And Kevin, you had something to say?
Yeah, if for any reason there's a run on any of these books and you get to the website after some of the other viewers have purchased the books, send us an email or comment on the video saying what you're looking for, and we will do what we can to secure you a copy.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. Everything we talked about today is available to purchase right now. So go on capeandcowlcomics.com and do some shopping. Like Kevin said, let us know if the stock's gone, you're having trouble finding it, whatever, we'll help you out. But yeah, this was a lot of fun, and we'll be back next week to do more nerdy conversation things in front of a camera for everyone to watch.
Love you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Till next time.